Hello, good evening, one and all. It's Thursday and it's time for the oNiD Community Racing oNiD Hound GT3 Transatlantic Showdown Round 3 here at Long Beach. As we said last week, it is the American Monaco. We have sea, we have sand, and we have track. Will it be Pinball Mania or will it be clean racing here tonight? Walls each aligning each side of the circuit, no room for mistakes. And to assist us through all this action is also in the comments booth with me tonight, Scotty. Welcome back.
It's great to be back at this interesting circuit as we have 25 GT3 cars ready to tackle. GT3 cars not that small, can be a little bit big, a little bit heavy around here, not so nimble as the Indy cars that normally race here and the hypercars with IMSA. Of course, GT3 do race here with IMSA as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they fare with corners such as the fountain section and that tricky hairpin at the end of the lap. And it'll be intriguing to see which of our regions come out on top. Will Europe strike back and return to their form that they've shown at Daytona from round one, or will North America carry the momentum that they gained at Road America, where they took the lead, leading by 85 points now in the standings over Europe? It'll be interesting to see which way the pendulum will swing this week.
Yes, absolutely indeed. Qualifying is just about underway and cars are out on circuit as we will go to the action. As you can see, everyone out on the circuit with, we said, lone qualifying, as it says. I'm just looking under my timing screen, just trying to figure out who is going to be on the first driver to start up. I think it's going to be now. The pronunciation was told to me of this final name. I've just slipped my mind. Demok. Thank you. I've been told to call him Lenny a couple of times. He apparently loves that. Emphasis on apparently. Lennart will come to the finish line to start the first flying lap of this qualifying session. 15 minutes alone qualifying. Actually, I stand corrected. Bottleson getting a first time on the board as Lennart will start a race. There is Osbaldsson, again butchering names, I'm so sorry, to take the pole position, but very quickly beaten by Thomas Wright. 120.682 current fastest lap in the early stages of qualifying. Let's change the time tower a little bit. Still a lot of the field yet to settle that time, mind you. About half the field still either out on track. Oh, that's a massive slide from Noah.
Really pushing. Yeah, really pushing there for Noah. Unfortunately had to miss last week because of an internet outage, I believe. Was here for practice, but then it went out and he was unable to race. So trying to make up for lost time from last week, and you can see pushing on in that McLaren, the car twitching around, nearly find the wall with the rear end a couple of times now, heading into the right-hander at the end of this back straight. Will be making their way through this technical section, through the long double apex left-hander for turn 10, into the tight hairpin of the final corner. Gets the car turned right quite nicely. Will pick up the power. Rear end complaining just a little bit as they try and put down all the horsepower from the McLaren, as Aidan Carter now puts in a lap to go top of the board. Can Noah? Yes, Noah will retake the top of the sheets by 14 thousandths of a second. It won't last for long as Thomas Wright reclaims the top 3.5 tenths clear at the front of the field.
Oh boy. It is all kicking off. Top 5. Oh no, sorry, I'll say it again. Second, third and fourth split by less than a tenth. A massive gap to Thomas Wright and Osbaldsson. I hope I'm saying that right. As, that's a lot of code by Thomas there as he goes on for another lap in the Corvette. Who else is doing a half decent time in a minute? Let's go down to Charles Morgan. Personal best for his previous lap, I'm not entirely sure. But continuing on is Ethan. That's a wonderful early delivery to McLaren. recently featured as well in that Only 24 Hours race. So very kindly stream was brought to us by Ben Holmes for that one, and mixed fortunes for that, but lovely to see the McLaren back out and again, and you can tell the difference between the drivers from they very kindly coloured the rims of the tyres, so you can tell the difference between who's who. Very, very thoughtful of them, isn't it? As to cover it, Aiden Carter going to the line improves even further, closer to the 119s. Never mind Narninski getting there, and I believe that will be
Thomas Wright 7. Sorry, Thomas Wright 7 thousandths off on their final lap. Narinsky on their final lap as well. Aiden Carter has one more lap to try and steal away pole position. Only just over a 10th off as we watch Marley Watts, who's popped up into P4. They're on their final lap now. They've got best, second and third sector. Can they improve in the final sector? A little bit of wheel spin coming out of the hairpin on the run to the line. It's quite a long run to get to the line here, so it's important to get a good exit, and a cross line will improve, but will still extend P4 as John Earl pops themselves up to P5. A lot of drivers done with their lap times, a few more down towards the lower end of the field still to complete their laps.
Indeed they are, and I just realised we don't have quality mode turned on, so you're not getting the times on the bottom of the screens. Let's see if I can change that. In a dying moments of qualifying, there we go, getting the times up on the board. Aiden Carter was on a lap, but pulls into the pits. Purple first sector, that was for Aiden. Nigel Stock getting across the line and going up to P21. Next car is Chavez, goes up to third. Good lap from Daniel Chavez in that Ford Mustang. Connectors Motorsports back up in the mix again, and suddenly the top three look even mighty closer than they did previously.
Race winner from last time out, Road America, putting themselves third on the grid, and subsequently from that lead does lead both the North America Championship and the overall championship for the drivers. Now watching John Earl through the hairpin. That's very clunky, nearly hits him on the outside, and we'll dive into the pits for a bit of pit entry practice, as did quite a few of our drivers. Daniel Chavez continuing on, though. They have one more lap here to set. It's a personal best in the first sector, purple in the second sector, so they're challenging for the front row. Only 7 thousandths at the moment separate the two drivers on the front row. Can Daniel Chavez put a bit of a gap between them, as it's another personal best in the third sector?
It is indeed. He's pushing and trying to get improvement, personal best third sector. We'll go through the hairpin. Doesn't get overly close to the wall. We don't need to. Comes to the line. P3, will that be an improvement? He comes to the line. I don't think it's going to be an improvement. 126. I stand corrected. 119.6. That is a very good pole lap.
Puts himself 3 1/4 tenths clear of second place when only 7 thousandths separate the next two cars. Currently looking now at Adrian Rich, who I believe is on an out lap here, so is leaving it very late into the session to set their 3 laps. Only a 1 minute 20 lap time, so should have time to set all 3 flying laps, and staying in very cautiously through the final corner. So we'll watch them cross line, as they are currently the only driver on track that is setting lap times. 3 laps here for Adrian Rich. Where can they put themselves onto this grid?
We are going to find out as he does start a lap. We see the timing in the bottom left of your screen. Car number 11, Adrian Rich, ready for the first sector past the water fountain. Does look slightly tentative. It's a personal best first sector, so not terrible. He is improving, but the relative time would be his last lap, which was his out lap, would be completely invalid. And even though it is certain personal best, we don't know how much by, as that was very much his out lap to start his quali run.
Yeah, well, let's see, 24 for Adrian Rich's first sector. Top times are 21.4, so losing by a second off the top times in the first sector. Second sector, 13.3, seeing 12.5 at the top end, so another 0.8 loss in the middle sector. Third sector now, 22.3, seeing 21.1, so another 1.2 seconds off. So this is going to be around the tail end of the field for Adrian Rich.
Yeah, this is
As
a very
they come through the
tentative
final
lap, isn't
corner.
it?
Little bit awkward through the final corner. They will still have 2 more laps to build some more confidence, build up some more speed as they come across the line. It's a 124.7, sorry, as the timing screen updates. Does put them in front of Jarrett Page for now. They have 9 tenths to find if they want to get themselves ahead of Terry Williams, and they won't be finding it like that. Running in deep to turn 1, I think narrowly avoiding that tire wall on the outside. Let's see, yes, as expected, not improving, 2.5 tenths down in the first sector over their first lap, but can they still find some time in the rest of the lap, or will their confidence have taken a hit with that mistake at T1 through the second sector time? It is an improvement.
It is. However,
find a bit more time than that if they want to improve over the lap.
Yeah, they do need a little bit more time. Oh, that's not going to help his cause. And that's going to be reset to the pits, clouting the tyre wall. And I have a feeling he's going to go back to pits. He may be able just to get one more lap out of this. And I think he is, but he's the only car to yet to finish his qualifying apart from Baktev. And that's a black flag as well, because he elected to speed in the pit lane.
It's not a good way when time's limited. 3 minutes, it is enough time to get an out lap and final flying lap in, but we need to get going now. There is not much time to spare, maybe 10 seconds from here. But yeah, it might be a bit difficult. Confidence being knocked after 2 mistakes on that previous attempt. Can't imagine they will be... can't imagine it'll be great for them, but they'll come out of the pits, they'll give it another go. We've seen with all the other drivers, they were able to improve with every lap, but their best lap was the final lap, maybe because the tyre was coming in a bit, getting up to temperature and into a good, better performance window. With Adrian Rich now essentially only having a 1 lap shootout here to try and improve, I feel like it's going to be a real struggle.
I think so as well. We'll see what we can do. He's got this out lap, 1 more lap to do. It is a quarter-hour session, and even though other people have done their allotted 3 laps within that qualifying session, drivers can use up all the time as they do wish, and that's what Adrian's doing here, getting his last lap in. He's going to have cold tyres though. He's going to have to go for an out lap and make sure his tyres are up to temperature. Not getting 3 back-to-back laps will hurt him even more. So he goes down into the final sector, again keeping it out of the wall, avoiding walls, that's all good. And he can then wind it up for a final attempt at a better qualifying time. 24th at the moment. Ooh, did he just clip the inside wall potentially? If he did, he's going to continue going.
Coming up to the line, which we'll see just there, only 1 minute and 16 seconds left to complete the lap. That would mean he'd have to take pole by a few seconds to finish this lap. I don't think Adrian is going to get this lap in, but a bit of sort of practice still for the race, try and rebuild some confidence before we get rolling for the start, see what sector times they can put in. It is an improvement in the first sector, personal best. They said personal best before they had that second moment into the tyre barrier on their previous attempt. Can they go a little bit quicker? No, not as quick this time through that second sector. Now into the third one, through left-hander, using all of the track width right up to the wall there, and this is where they made the mistake on the previous lap. Can they get into the right-hander? They do indeed, a little bit wide of the inside wall, and just giving themselves a little bit of margin to the outside wall, taking it safe. Not necessarily the quickest line through the corner, and they do lose 3.5 tenths over their personal best in that third sector. Now they've run it in too deep into turn 9, and that's going to be their quali lap done. Not that they were going to get to finish it within the allotted time, as we get to the 15-minute mark. The session will immediately end, and Adrian Rich will not even get to practice a pit entry.
Oh, you're right. So we now go to the only race tonight. Let's remind ourselves. And we will go to our grid. oNiD Community Racing, GT3 Transatlantic Showdown. Chavez takes pole from Narnitsky, Wright and Carter. It's Watts L, Osbolston. We got there in the end. Ben Brown, Orlov, and Demuk. I said that right, didn't I? Demuk.
I think so, yeah.
Cool. Royal 11th, Stather in 12th. 13th, Ben Holmes. Bottleson 14th, Cleaver 15th. Grimquist 16th. Valletta 17th. Scroller 18th. Staples 19th. Morgan 20th. 21st, Nigel Stock. Baton for Terry 22nd. Williams 23rd. And Adrian Rich, unfortunately, down in that Lowson 24th. Jarrett Page 25th. And Baktev not setting a lap time, which may get a bit of finger wagging from our race stewards.
I'm trying to remember if they had a qualifying ban. As we have had a couple this week so far in our other series. Can't quite remember. Been trying to look for information on whether they have or not, but haven't had a definitive answer. So maybe they have, maybe they haven't. Though they haven't come to the grid, so they may also be suffering from other issues, kind of like what, as mentioned earlier, Noah Osbodleston suffered from last week. Looking at our manufacturers and regions, Ford on top, Chevy making second, third, and fourth, not too dissimilar from last week. But that does mean America holds the top 4 positions. Then it is Europe in 5th and 6th with 2 Porsches, as well 7th with the McLaren. Ben Brown gets Acura up into P8 with Orlov in for 9th, and Demek getting a 2nd Mustang into the top 10. So top 10, predominantly North American cars, especially in the top half. So Europe already 85 points behind this coming into this week, despite outscoring America in our first round of the series. They'll need to try and turn things around this race. Might be difficult to do so, not unless America has some own issues and some trips to the barriers themselves.
Indeed, we will. So go to the blimp camera as we see the formation up going through the final sector is this long straight, and then that right, left, right for that very tight final hairpin. They will be two abreast as when they get to that point. They may have to just breathe in a little bit and say slowly make their way around the final hairpin. But we're now going to get racing for our 1 hour race. I can't recall. Goodness gracious me.
70-minute race. We see them coming through the hairpin, electing not to run side by side from our admins here, just because it is really tricky. Will they try and form up? You always see in the IndyCar races here, they maybe get 5 rows lined up and then the rest just don't have the time. But it looks like we're having a better effort here as the front of the field backs up, gives the time for the back of the field to bunch up. But as the lights come on, the foots go down, and we're away here for round 3 of the GT3 Transatlantic Showdown, heading towards turn 1. They're all right, trying to go 3 wide, and someone's just deposited a bumper through turn 1 through the kink before turn 1 into the first braking zone now. Chavez holding the inside line and will hold the lead. Field trying to filter through the first apexes, and looks like, well, there's a bit of bumping going on. Can't see anyone dropping massively down the order except for Norinsky seems to be our first casualty.
Spun at the water fountain, so we'll be able to rejoin and continue. However, that's going to drop it down a heck of a ton of places. He's had to do like a 5-point turn there. No, I didn't see there was contact at the start of our lap. We will try and review what we can. As for now, it is all goes. Ben Brown has come a cropper. And there's that rear end damage. Look at that, all exposed. Here's the rear of that car, and that rear wing is also looking a little bit second hand as well, dare I say.
Yeah, down 7 places, having qualified in P8 is maybe going to try and come back at Falsetta, but with that damage might not have the straight line speed. But Tolfson right behind them, also losing a couple of places themselves, are trying to recover a little bit. Victor Norinsky, remember, qualified up in P2, now all the way down in last place. And Ben Brown coming into the pits to repair that damage. That's going to make it quite a long and difficult race for Ben Brown for the rest of the day.
Should we try and figure out what happened at the start? Let's have a look if we can get a replay. I'm going to go to Victor Narninski first of all, as we are underway. There's a bumper going rogue there in the middle. You can see Narninski in the anime car. It all has a spin, gets tapped out, taps the back of the wall as well for good measure. Oh, that's a nasty, nasty shunt. That's going to be surprised if he has I'll be surprised.
John Earl spun there too.
Yeah, John Earl as well. Yeah, John Earl there in that Porsche. I won't be surprised if both guys have damage there. There's something else prior to that happening at the start of the race as well. Let's see what happened. I think it was Jarrett Page. We'll go to the start finish. Oh, they were concertinaing at the hairpin.
Yeah, there's one car practically stopped there as we're coming into the hairpin. Shows you just how difficult it is. And I think that's Adrian Rich struggling to get the car round the hairpin to begin with. And that really cost them, all three cars at the back of the field, quite a bit of time. Can maybe be a slight advantage if you sort of get an extra rolling start up to start finish line. But I think Adrian Rich lost too much time, was too far back there. I did also notice on that first replay where we saw Norinsky gets spun going into the first braking zone. Ivan Orlov sending their yellow Ferrari up the inside, making it 3 wide, nearly putting a car in the outside wall as they made a very aggressive move. And then sort of concertina from that a little further back meant Norinsky was 3 wide after what seemed like quite a poor start from them to be so far back. And yeah, unfortunately, being 3 wide into the fountain section didn't quite work out. We see a replay here of John Earl sliding the car a little bit through the final sector of the lap.
It said they had a crash, and I don't think that's completely accurate, so we'll ignore that one then for now as we join live action. I can tell you how Staples has had an incident. This is down into the first turn in that Ferrari. Excuse me. Is he going to clip the wall? Oh, he's going to go nose first into the wall.
Just couldn't get the car slowed down.
No.
Most likely braking a little bit too late. A little bit of front end damage, but they will live to fight another day. Meanwhile, up at the front, Aidan Carter saying new fastest lap of the race as they try and chase down our leading pair. Thomas Wright saying a very satisfying time, a 1 minute 20 dead. And when I say dead, I mean to the 1,000th.
Lovely.
So a very satisfying lap there. Slightly faster than Daniel Chavez closing up, but overtaking can be a little bit difficult with how tight and bumpy this Long Beach circuit is, as we see this fight, the Corvette putting the pressure on the leading Mustang, who's trying to go 2 for 2, as we see Terry Williams into the wall at that first corner. Much like what we've seen for Philip Staples, both drivers in a Ferrari, Terry Williams, all by themselves. See in the background, Mustang trying to defend a little bit. And again, it's almost identical. Couldn't get the car slowed down into the outside wall.
And that is damage as well, so they're going to have to maybe be a bit more careful, like nurse it home back to the pits, as damage will be needing to be repaired there. We'll see the top 3 quite close together. P7, however, on the back of Stathan, right on the back of Orlov. That's Porsche looking a bit, again, worse for wear on that front end. He's going to try and go for the outside and goes darts back for the inside. Ferrari gets a bit of a squeeze. It gets a bit more of a squeeze. There's contact and the Ferrari's round.
I'm not sure what Ivan Orlov was trying to accomplish there. Stather already alongside Orlov, just seems like, despite them being there, tried to squeeze him further to the inside. Contact happened, and yeah, that's not going to end well after a very aggressive move at T1 on the opening lap. Can't say I've been too impressed by Orlov. We see Stather looking to the inside, and it kind of looked like Ivan hit the brakes, and then the car just went to the left slightly and caught the front bumper of Stather. So
he's going around again.
Yeah, had to tow to pit lane with significant damage, as they did originally trying to safely rejoin at the exit T1. Difficult thing to do, nearly gets collected by a car there. Luckily they're able to avoid and realise it's hang on. Car is a little too far gone. They're not making it back round an entire lap, and yeah, has returned themselves to pit lane. Back to the front as we see our leaders all into the 119s now. Daniel Chavez on the previous lap set a 1 minute 20.001. Just a thousandth of that satisfying time that Thomas Wright achieved. It's a funny coincidence how similar those lap times are. But and speaking of similar lap times, Thomas Wright, Aidan Carter, identical lap times last time around. Could not be much closer between these top three in terms of lap times. It'll be interesting to see how this battle progresses through the rest of the race. The lap times so similarly matched, it will definitely make overtaking difficult. It'll be up to the drivers to not make mistakes to let their competitors through.
Absolutely, and the gap is closing between the two leaders here. It's the closest battle we actually have. 7th, Demok is trying to get back up to P6, and Score actually closing to back of Ben Hayes, and John Al also getting quite close. Bet on for Terry for 18th and 19th. So battles are happening. We'll stick with the lead for now. Actually, I'm going to jump down to John L because that's getting very close. It's Fry Guys versus oNiD, and the Porsche's going to be a bit brave. Look to the outside. Now you get the over-under for the better run to the back straight, and that actually may have helped him here.
John Earl, remember, one of the drivers within the top 10, but being spun on the first lap, is having to recover the way down the inside of turn 9. They come very close to having a little nudge. For Toys, not going to give this one up. Inside through the long turn 10, now into the hairpin. John Earl with the inside that time is able to fend off, covers the cutback 2 on the exit from Fortoy, and takes P18. Next up is Adrian Rich, who we know has been struggling a little bit this evening so far. Only a second up the road, and was nearly 2 seconds quicker than Adrian Rich last lap. It'll be interesting to see, can John Earl get this pass done in one lap, get over and done with as quickly as they can. We see here Matt Cleaver trying to put pressure on Elvin Blomqvist, who is making their first appearance in an iRacing race for us. Of course, a regular on other sims, ACC in the past, LMU these days, and is making the jump over to try iRacing. Great to see them here, and it's I would say a pretty good opening round for them, given that they're in the top 10, as we see Adrian Rich getting into a little bit of strife as John Earl has got that move done, and for Toys now having to try and defend from Narinsky. Remember, starting from the top 3, Narinsky also spun on the opening lap, making that recovery drive. Does get the move done for Toy, but for Toy with the slipstream is going to try and come back here to the inside of turn 9. How confident? Brave. Not confident enough under braking. Will back out of that one, and Narinsky will now be able to go chase down Adrian Rich, and will be hoping they can get past as quickly as John Earl did.
Yep, absolutely, and that's Adrian. Oh no, for Toy's round. Never mind.
Maybe a little bit frustrated being overtaken twice in 2 laps. Just a little too aggressive with the throttle. Spun the car round. Will get going again. They'll scuff on the wall just as Jar Page catches up to them, and will try and get past them potentially as they head to T1, as we see Demink just in front of Mustang. I believe that's a lap down Mustang.
That is. I'm trying to figure out who it is. That might be Terry Williams. That's Williams, I believe. Oh, it might be back if I do stand corrected, yes.
Yeah, because Williams is in a Ferrari, and that very much was not a Ferrari.
A little bit too bulky for Ferrari.
Yeah, already a few laps down, being a little late to the race for whatever reason. Yeah, unfortunately, I'll not be getting much further as Nurinsky does get a move done on Adrian Rich up to 18th place, and we see Bakativ into the pits in the background. 11 minutes into the race, 59 to go. We're only a seventh of the way through the race into T1 for Demick as they're trying to put down the pressure on Stather. Was just over a tenth slower last lap below Stather, just extending that gap ever so slightly. But yeah, Demick not under a little bit of pressure themselves, actually, from Elvin Blomqvist, who said personal best last lap was 8 tenths quicker than Demick in front of them. Could close in and might be challenging to make their potential first overtake, not unless we've missed something already this race. Their first overtake in one of our iRacing series, as we see. A little mistake there from Stather into the right-hander. That's allowed Demick to get right under the rear wing of that Porsche.
Has indeed, and has the run on the inside. Maybe a bit of late braking. We'll have to get the move done, but actually, not that more. That was actually quite dramatic. That wasn't very dramatic. It was actually a quite neat and tidy pass for the 6th position, and the German gets up to P6. German? That's a German flag, isn't it? Yes.
Quite a bit of... no, I think that's Belgium, actually.
Oh, is that Belgium? Never mind.
I think so. Although, I gotta say my flag knowledge, not the best, so don't quote me on that. But yes, Stather losing that place, so being quite cooperative with the Mustangs, sort of thinking bigger picture most likely. But yeah, they will carry on. I think that's just a little internet blip on the timing tower. As we can see, our top three are much closer. Aidan Carter's continued to close that gap down on Thomas Wright, who now finds themselves in the difficult spot of having to attack while also defending. As yeah, we just see a little internet blip there. Someone who did drop down a few positions not too long ago was Charlie Morgan. I think they lost about 5 places from maybe being in front of John Earl to now behind Philip Staples. So, yeah, not too sure what happened to them, but they lost a few positions a lap or two ago.
I may have an answer for you. There's a bit of a touch there going through the hairpin. Is there maybe another touch? No, it'll stop. Is there going to be contact on exit? No, he gets moved down, I think. That was maybe just a little bit of contact. The timing tower decided to inform us that there was contact and we're going to be moved for the lead. That's Chavez having to give Wright a bit of space into turn 1. They both of them figure out how to make it through turn 1 without going into each other. And that tightens up the top 3 even closer to where they once was.
Yeah, right. Trying the attempt, realised it wasn't quite pulling off, was just able to get the car backed out in time. But Chavez gave them the room needed. Nice and respectful between the two of them so far, which is great to see. Hopefully that will continue through the remainder of the race, but has just opened the gap up ever so slightly as they continue on. 10 laps down already this race, as we're on lap 11. Wonder if these drivers will also be thinking about their pit strategy. If you're joining us for the first time in the series, as we get a little replay of Jared Page's camera takes an interesting trip through a skyscraper, coming into the final corner there. Jared Page with quite a bit of damage, struggling to get the car rotated, doesn't get it rotated through the hairpin. We'll have to make a 3-point turn there. And here's a replay with Ben Brown into left hand. Remember, Ben's already made a pit stop to repair damage from the opening lap. They do get the car turned around there, seeing Jared Page faceplant the outside tire wall at that final corner. But yeah, as I was saying, as issue for John Earl actually dropping down the timing screens. We've seen them making a pass not too long ago, and here they are face first into the wall. And that's Ben Brown facing the wrong way as well. Don't face plant the wall as well, Ben Brown. So they park the car sideways across track as John Earl gets themselves going. Let's see what happened. I believe this is Ivan Orlov in front of John Earl. John Earl going for the move, a bit ambitious, and just squeezes, doesn't leave the gap for Ivan Orlov there on the outside, and gets spun around. Now, the question is, how did Ben Brown get spun around just slightly after that?
Let's have a look, shall we?
So this is Ben Brown coming into the right-hander of turn 8, where we see that instant, and
Oh, no.
John Earl just reversing into him. John Earl. 2 mistakes, 2 incidents in one corner, and can see the damage for Ben Brown, who's, remember, already had to pit for damage once this race. I can't imagine how frustrated he is.
You can't
And
turn
the
right.
car, yeah, can't turn right, has to go back to pit lane. Yeah, I feel for Ben Brown there. It has not been their day for sure.
No, absolutely. Derek has had an issue. Says he's had contact somewhere. To try and figure out where. There's a slow Mustang in front of him. Holds him up. Ooh! And that causes the cars behind him to gather right up behind. I believe that's Peter Staver, 14, tucked back in. And that Mustang, that slow Mustang gets out of the way of the fighting midfield pack.
Yeah, just awkward situation. You know, that's the worst place to catch traffic on this track, is through that hairpin. There's, you know, these cars can struggle a little bit, as we seen with Sharp Page a little earlier, to get through that corner single file, let alone when you're trying to pass another car. But since then, Demick seems to have opened the gap up slightly. He is second now to Stather behind, who's going to be keeping one eye on that rear view mirror as Elvin Blomqvist catches up to them again. See Aidan Carr saying a new fastest lap of the race as they continue to put pressure on the top 3, having dropped back a little bit since we were last watching them. But I can see this battle behind Demick, Stather, Blomqvist, Matt Cleaver, all closing in. Cleaver by 1/4 of a second quicker than Blomqvist last lap. Seems like they're the one that's putting the most pressure on the driver in front of them at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So things are a little bit status quo as they are. I think Dendrick got held up by that slow traffic. Hurt him very temporarily, but has been able to continue once more. Let's see what's happening up and down the field. Got some pings on my screen. Let's go to Nigel Stark, who's, I think, just had a spin on his own, basically. Goes through the final sector and goes to the final hairpin. Is this going to be... Oh, it says he's had a crash. He hasn't had a crash. How interesting. Maybe take these reports, maybe a little bit of pinch of salt on the timing app. But for now...
my bet is iRacing netcode, thinking there's a crash.
I would hazard a guess at that being somewhat accurate.
So as they come across the line for another time, we look back to the top 3 who have closed in once more. Thomas Wright trying to put the pressure on Daniel Chavez, but knowing that Aidan Carter is not far behind to try and pick up the pieces if things go wrong between our 2 leaders. Let's go on board with Aidan Carter. Watch, see how they're trying to close the gap in slightly on the 2 in front of them and waiting for any opportunity. Wonder if Aidan sort of is losing a little bit as we see Chavez defending over its inside, trying to break the toe a little bit down towards turn 9. But Aidan just not right on the rear bumper. Wonder if he's thinking if those 2 do get into strife, that they want a car length or 2 just to react to any instant, avoid further contact, and get through cleanly. That could be quite helpful. You can see how much they concertina up into and through that final hairpin. Have any of them got a good enough drive off it to challenge? No. Thomas Wright losing a bit of distance to Chavez, and Aidan Carter is the closer car as they head down the start-finish straight into T1 for the 16th time this race. Though Thomas Wright a bit braver through T1, closes the gap in, gets themselves under that rear wing of the Mustang. But then Aidan Carter on the exit closes in on Thomas Wright. This battle really just yo-yoing back and forth between 2 of them. Little bit wide for Thomas Wright there. That just extends the margin to the Mustang in front. Aidan Carter gets a little bit closer. You can see in the background how much of a gap these 3 have opened up to Marley Watt. 7 seconds that gap, and was very visible on that on these camera shots. As you can see how much these drivers are pushing, how little margin they're leaving to the walls on the exit of these corners. As we head back a little bit, Ben Holmes in P11 trying to fend off Ure Shore, who has been trying to put the pressure on Ben Holmes and maybe closed in a little bit here. Maybe a slight mistake from Ben Holmes, or is this just a little iRacing net code through the hairpin?
Hairpin.
Was a little bit of a messy hairpin, though it must be said. Did lose him a bit of time. So iRacing was not wrong in that regard, but yes, managing to avoid the wall. As we see, Shore just keeping the pressure on Ben Holmes. Not significantly quicker enough to really go for a move, but just putting that pressure on, trying to push Ben Holmes into a little mistake that might give them the opportunity they need. As a little further back, John Earl fighting with Fortoy, trying to get themselves back into the top 20.
I think they just have made the move. Let's have a look at that. I think that's quite the easy move. Oh no, over under for John Earl in the hairpin. That's fair.
Yeah, Fortoy just in too deep, wide, left the door open, and John Earl doing well to get the car down into that narrow gap on the inside of the hairpin. It's tight enough, as we say, by yourselves, let alone when you're trying to pass another car. So good job there from John Earl. We see penalty for Jared Page.
Yes.
Wide into the wall for Fortoy. That's not good in himself any favours. Also now Terry Williams also picking up a penalty.
Oh, track limits are a thing here, especially through the middle sector. You can cut the curbs, and you sometimes actually get track warnings if you dive 2 lanes onto the pit exit. Oh, sorry, dive 2 wheels, should I say, onto pit exit. There's a flash of lights from the car behind the baton for Terry, as it's a lap car that's trying to get past.
Trying to figure out, I think.
94.
I want to say that's Batolson.
Yes. Car 994.
Yeah, and Ben Brown coming into the chat during their time waiting for the car to be towed to pit lane, just saying, well, yeah, I feel you there, Ben. It's been a rough one. And fair enough, we're soldiering on despite the 2 trips through pit lane, all right, to make damage repairs. As we see Thomas Wright trying to break brave around the outside through turn 9 on Daniel Chavez. Doesn't pull it off. Does just about hold on in front of Aidan Carter, though, as Matt Cleaver has finally, after many laps of trying to put pressure on Alvin Blomqvist, got themselves up into P8.
Indeed he has, and that was a very, very bold move from right there going into the second sector. You can make it work around there. You have to have a really good run to swing it around the outside. A very cooperative car on the inside as well. You have to be very careful, and it almost made it work. However, not close enough to make that move work. Let's just see how Cleaver passed Blomqvist into the end of the second sector. Right-hander, and that's a clip on the wall as well from Blomqvist.
Just misjudging the width of the car ever so slightly, running a little bit wide. Wasn't forced in there, no contact between the cars. Just a scrape across the barriers, and hopefully that doesn't give too much damage to Blomqvist. As I said, they're running quite well for their first iRacing race with us. And hopefully it can end that way in about, trying to do maths on the fly, 45 minutes time with how much of the race we have to go.
Absolutely. Ben Brown's back out on circuit, but he's had a crash. So that's going to be annoying for him. However, he's back out on circuit. It might have just been hairpin going slow through the hairpin. It's triggered that warning for me saying that cars are crashing, but not necessarily crashing anyway. Maybe just going extra slow through the hairpin.
Look at that, just 7 thousandths of a second between Daniel Chavez's and Thomas Wright's last lap, that time in favour of Chavez, but such a small margin, it has no real significance. Both of those drivers really pushing on, as well as Aidan Carter of course, one thing I do just need to double check. I do believe we have points for fastest laps in this series. Yeah, let me just double check. Yes, an additional 2 points will be awarded to the fastest lap of the race. So those are currently in the hands of Aidan Carter. And with tyres possibly wearing out a little bit, they might be staying there, but maybe the fuel burn, the car's getting lighter throughout the race, might give an opportunity to some of the other drivers. They are not far off. Their last lap, the top two were only a 10th off of Aidan Carter's best lap. So they're nearly there, but with the track temp up at 46 degrees Celsius, the tyres might be suffering just a little bit as we see Jar Page having another little moment with the outside barrier at the final corner.
Cool. Just a heads up, Scotty. Losing you a little bit, you went very quiet, almost like you're at the other side of the room, so I think we could hopefully get you back on the commentaries in a few moments' time. But for now, with 27 minutes down, and not even at the halfway point yet for the race, it is Chavez, Wright and Carter, your top three, who've remained extremely close for the past 10 or 12 laps. And it's Watts, Osbaldeston, Demick, Staver, Cleaver, Blomqvist and Royal, your top 10. We go down to Philip Staples, also right on the tail of Narninski, who's had their mishaps this race so far. It's Ferrari versus Corvette. So the American car maybe a little bit giving a bit of home favourite here. That would probably be worth a 10th or 2, but that Ferrari is looking rather racy right behind him, as Osbaldeston's had an issue and has a meatball flag, and he's had contact. He's round.
Stuck on the outside of turn 8 on the exit. It's a blind corner, so it's a very awful place to be. Luckily, just about even with the damage, gets the car reversed. You can see that rear left locked sort of in place, not rotating properly. And luckily, John Harrell nearly getting into the back, just about managing to avoid the stricken McLaren. But yeah, let's try and see what happened here. All by himself into turn 8, swings the car in rear end, saying, no, I cannot go into the corner with that much speed. And you can just see how he's destroyed the rear left suspension on that tyre barrier. So that is going to be a trip to pit lane. Will he make it round? It doesn't look like it. He's going to have to take a tow. That is going to cost him quite a bit of time, unfortunately. Mistake from them, as we have Elvin Blomqvist into the pits. I wonder if that's to repair a little bit of damage. Wonder if they can get to the end of the race from here with, as I was trying to say a bit earlier, but got distracted and by stuff. We have there isn't a mandatory pit stop, but the fuel tanks are restricted to 70% of their full capacity. So yeah, drivers won't be able to make it to the end of the race without having to pit. We've seen so far pit stops have generally come around the halfway mark. There's not been too much variance in that, but with obviously Long Beach being a street circuit, it might not be as thirsty on the fuel consumption. That might allow Elvin Blomqvist to maybe perform a bit of an undercut here. Just over 40 minutes to go, and he's going to have to get a bit of a move on as he comes out of the pits. He's got the leaders just behind. You'll notice Aidan Carter has dropped back a little bit. Had a bit of a slow lap, lost half a second a couple of laps ago, as these three are coming up on Elvin Blomqvist. Flash of the lights from the leading Mustang, as Elvin Blomqvist trying to get back up to speed. He's going to pull over to the racing line, and down inside goes the Mustang. The Corvette is going to try and follow through. Elvin Blomqvist just about keeping the car out of the tyre wall, and Aidan Carter is going to make their way through. Luckily for Chavez, they're not compromised too much, and so Thomas Frank not finding out an opportunity there to make the move, but is still keeping the pressure on, as they have done so for the first half hour of this race.
Absolutely making it work and keeping it going, but that gap is enlarging between second and third, and I think Aidan, as you said, maybe had a bit of a poor lap, but is able to get going and is actually catching up now as very comparable lap times between him and the two leaders in first and second.
Maybe slightly wide there for Chavez through turn 1 has just allowed Thomas Wright to get a little bit closer as we see Demonk responding to Elvin's undercut and heading into the pits themselves. It will be interesting to see if we'll see many more cars coming to the pits to respond, which does suggest that, yeah, you can maybe get to the end of the race from here. I wonder if maybe a little bit of fuel saving might be required, but it does seem like a couple of people think, yeah, they can get to the end from now. They're going to try and head to the pits, maybe get a bit clean, or hopefully they don't come in traffic like Elvin Blomqvist has, and hoping that they can maybe gain a place or two with the strategy, which will be quite important if they can. We see overtaking can be a bit difficult here. It's not easy, especially in the top 3. So strategy could be the deciding factor between these lot.
Absolutely, indeed, as we've had a move done for Osbaldeston passing Charlie Morgan to see how that all played out. That's a very slow Charlie Morgan, thinking, oh, is that Charlie Morgan with damage potentially? As he's just looking at his front left. No, it looks like there's some suspension damage. He's absolutely alright. I think he's just letting a car go in the knowledge that he's probably going to be a bit more slower than him, and we'll maybe learn a thing or two by following him for a few laps and trying to figure out where he can find some pace.
Yes, we see big slide there for Thomas Wright coming out of turn 6, just trying to put that power down over the bumps. The car not quite liking it. You see them still trying to keep the pressure on, waiting for Chavez to make a mistake, but there has been no mistake yet. But as we can see in the foreground, these leaders coming up to a little bit more traffic, which can always bring forth an opportunity to Thomas Wright, or maybe even Aidan Carter, to make a place up, as these 3 look pretty comfortable to finish on the podium as long as they don't have any incidents. The question is, what order will they finish in on the podium?
That is the question. As we said, they still need to make a pit stop. I have been very much informed that tyres will last the full race. A new fastest lap there for Thomas Wright, 119.769. A good 2 tenths faster, 3 tenths faster, should I say, and Chavez ahead. So the traffic actually getting these leaders and sorry, I was trying to say that about stuttering. The leaders getting the traffic at ideal enough points so not affecting their race too much. But this is keeping the top 3 in play with one another for quite a long time now. There's there's a clip on the wall there from that Ferrari. It's just went out of shot, and this traffic will then potentially give another opportunity for Thomas.
As we were looking at the shot down to turn 6 from turn 5, I think I counted 7 lapped cars in that one shot.
Oh.
That's quite a few cars that these drivers are coming up to, and as we're getting to the halfway mark, is now the time to pull the pin. Head into the pits to get yourself out of this traffic. As we can see, Chavez having to slow down, having to back up as everyone. Constantine is up into the hairpin, and no, not to pit lane, to pit lane, no. Aidan Carter takes the jump. There was another car, Falsetta Nurinsky into the pits as well. That's Nurinsky that we can see in front of Aidan Carter. Maybe that's what gives Chavez and Thomas Wright a bit of doubt, as hang on, there's still going to be a car in front of me if we go through pit lane, or 2 cars even. Well, it'll be interesting to see, maybe a shorter pit stop for Aidan Carter if they can get nail a strategy on. But yeah, we'll just have to watch and find out. As we can see, Chavez right in the thick of it, traffic, 3 cars directly in front of them.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be a tricky one for him, and he can't go past cars here. There's absolutely no room. You always got to bear in mind there's also cars on lapping cars here. As up the inside for Wright, can't make it work, and furiously flashing the lights there from the Mustang, who's all of a sudden looking vulnerable.
they came up. First car they passed there was Ben Brown, who tried to be respectful, held to the outside to let the leaders take the racing line. Chavez wasn't quite expecting it, so sort of was holding the right-hand side, thinking of an inside move at turn 8, but with Ben Brown holding the right-hand side, had to duck out of the way quite last second, and that's just what lost him a bit of momentum as Thomas Wright responds to Aidan Carter, trying to cover off the undercuts. We see Aidan Carter here with what looks like quite a bit of free air. They've got past Norinsky. They can push flat out.
Absolutely. In the background, it's John Allen and Norinsky fighting away for 16th and 17th. They will figure it themselves out before they get to that right-hander, as we wait eagerly to see how long Thomas is in the box for compared to where Aidan is. Aidan is going through the final sector now, penultimate corner coming up for him, and Stave and Cleaver both going to the pit at the same time. Thomas Wright is on pit exit. He has left his pit box and is trundling down the pit lane. Now the pit limiter doesn't turn off for a little while yet. You have to go quite a far way down to where those green cones are. Where's Aidan? Where is Aidan? It's made the... Not quite. He's there.
Yeah, interestingly, Chavez was 1 second slower than the fastest laps last lap, which we should suggest Aidan Carter has a chance here, but doesn't look like it's paid off. Thomas Wright coming out of the pits in front, but Aidan Carter on a charge will be trying to lose up as Thomas Wright gets back into the rhythm after that pit stop. Both these drivers now are going to push flat out in case Chavez still being held up with traffic. They might still have a chance to jump the leading Mustang.
Aidan clips the wall on exit of that corner there. It's going to potentially cost him, and Thomas will have cold tyres. They will just about now be coming up to temperature, but has he lived to fight for the lead? Has he been able to stay ahead and keep ahead? I think the answer for now in regards to Aidan Carter is a most definite yes.
Chavez has stayed out for another lap, so they don't seem too concerned about the undercut. I mean, might suggest what we've seen between Aidan Carter and Thomas Wright, that the overcut might be slightly better. Though that being said, Aidan Carter was in the pits for half a second longer than Thomas Wright. That could have been the difference right there. So Chavez will need to make sure that their pit stop time is right on the mark, as Aidan Carter up to speed of 120.3. That's by half second slower than our fastest lap times. Daniel Chavez 19.9, 4 tenths quicker than Carter last lap. So does look like Chavez might be on to hold the lead here. As you said a little earlier, Chavez now does come into the pits. Thomas Wright took the fastest lap for the race, was 7 thousandths of a second quicker than Aidan Carter's best lap, and that will net to them 2 points if no one else improves and goes quicker.
Well, we're going to find out our answer if the undercut works here. Marley Watts going quickest, now race leader, new fastest lap of the race, 119.703. So playing out the a good pace there for a fast lap, especially at the end of his stint. The tyres maybe screaming a little bit for mercy. Yeah, that Porsche looking good. Now takes the lead. Chavez already leaving pit box, and Aidan Carter and Thomas Wright coming down the main straight now. Where is Daniel going to come out? It's going to be close.
Look to the background, there's the leaders coming through the kink towards the braking zone. They look a little bit closer than Aidan was. Chavez around the pit exit line and will just emerge in front. It is closer than between Aidan and Wright, but Chavez just about holds on to the lead. We still have a few cars out there still to make pit stops, as we see Chavez right in the slipstream. Actually has a bit of a run here. Chavez thinking about defending, decides on the racing line in the end, and Wright almost pushing the Mustang through the corner, holds him up a little bit, and Aidan Carter has a run. Both of them thinking about attacking. Little scrape of the wall from Aidan Carter into the right-handers. They both decided to take the racing line at the last second. This has given Chavez a little bit of breathing room as they get themselves into a rhythm. A little bit of wave, trying to distract Thomas Wright into the braking zone for turn 9. trying to force a little mistake out of them, but it hasn't worked as Thomas Wright now putting their eyes forward again, trying to close up that little bit of a gap to Chavez as we see a couple of more drivers heading through pit lane.
Yep, absolutely. Marley Watts, Ben Royal going into the pits, so they'll be overtaken by these guys who's easily going to keep net race lead. And how they go down into the first turn on the brakes they go, and there's a noticeable gap between them and Marley Watts. And Marley Watts going that lap extras. Actually, maybe close him up to this battle just very slightly, but inheriting what is essentially net P4 without taking into account the rest of the pit stops.
Yes, so we are not far beyond the halfway mark, 41.5 minutes down. That leaves us 28 and a bit minutes as Chavez look to the inside at turn 8, just trying to put the pressure on, just trying to distract and again force a little mistake, put himself in the mirrors of Chavez. Chavez unfazed, and you can see that's just cost Wright a couple of car lengths as they head down the back straight towards into turn 9 now. But in turn 9 you can see Wright just closes that up immediately. If anything, I would say Wright does look like a slightly faster, quicker driver between our two leaders, but of course track position around a street circuit like Long Beach is proving to be king.
Indeed it is, and Chavez proving that and being able to hold a race lead with both the cars right on his tail. No problem having cold tyres. It's just, especially at the start of the lap, nowhere to overtake or get alongside, especially through this section here where the waterfall is, where this roundabout is essentially. But yeah, as they were prior to the pit stops.
Talking about how the time in pit lane could be very important, I think Chavez staying out those extra couple of laps really saved them. They were 2.3 seconds slower in pit lane than Thomas Wright, so that's why it was so close on the exit. And if Chavez responded immediately to the undercut, I think Thomas Wright actually would have taken the lead of this race, as the overcut being more powerful when the drivers are light on fuel before they take on an extra 60-70% of the fuel tank. The extra weight just slowing them down after the pit stops, as we see Thomas Wright continuing to put the pressure on as some of our final pit stops filter out. We still have 4 drivers on my timing screen yet to pit. That is Ben Holmes in the lead, Bernard Pitofsson from P6, Nigel Stock from P10, and Philip Staples from P13, as well as Toy from 20th apparently.
Yes, indeed. So we await to see how this battle goes. There's now a back marker bunching up the top 3 again. I believe that is
Adrian Rich.
I do stand corrected, as I didn't mean to click on that battle. We're going to go back to the battle for the lead as Thomas Wright.
To the inside in corner, yeah, they've got themselves long, Thomas Wright, and looks like they've got the move done. Wright will try and come back if they can get a good exit out of turn 7, but they haven't. And Aidan Carter, pouncing through the traffic, gets up into a net P2. That was absolutely helped by traffic. We're actually going to rewind that just a little bit further to get a proper understanding of how that all unfolded. We did inadvertently cut away from it as they go on to, yes, oh, that's why it's currently inside, hugs the apex, not much else they can do, and Wright goes wide, and that gives Aidan Carter the better run through the corner and the inside line for the next left-hander. Yeah, Wright choosing not to defend the inside there. Maybe might live to regret that one, having lost track position now, despite seeming like the quickest of our top 3 drivers, though not quickest in our race anymore. Marley Watts in a net P4 has taken fastest lap of the race with another 119.703. So I wonder if Marley Watts just seem to be losing time gradually over the first stint. They seem to be getting into a good rhythm for this second stint, and might be able to close in a little bit. But I think really to try and make up the near 8 seconds, as we see in the
Oh,
background, John Earl going for a spin as Werner Pitolson comes in for their pit stop. John Earl getting going again. Luckily had a bit of space as Ivan Orlov picks up a penalty just as we come to the replay. See how John Earl lost the rear end into left-hander, picking up the throttle while trying to turn the car through the lap of the corner. And the car just said, nope, cannot do, and went for a little half spin.
Aiden Carter's crashed. Apparently. Let's see if we can figure out what's happened.
Well, they're no longer in a net second place. Let's see as they come to turn 9.
Oh no!
Thomas Wright looking to the inside was maybe hard to tell from an angle if they were far enough alongside, but they were committed to the move. Aiden Carter tried to turn down, did not give them a lot of space anyway, was hoping that they were going to back out, but they were committed, and unfortunately Aiden Carter has found the wall, and that could give Marley Watts an opportunity for P3 for podium places. We see Ivan Orlov limping back to the pits. We'll have to come in to repair the damage, missing their rear wing, and then take another trip for a drive-through penalty. Here is what happened through T1, now into the fountain section through the right-hander, using a bit of the grass on the right-hand side, and then just loses the car, picking up the throw. The car maybe just a little too unsettled from the fountain curb hop, and Ivan losing control of the car, spinning, has to wait for some traffic before trying to flick spin the car around. It could be quite difficult in this narrow space. Gonna hope they don't try a 3-point turn here, but judging by the fact they still have their rear wing and they didn't have their rear wing in their last camera shot, I'm gonna guess yes they do, and I ping it off there.
That's what happened. Okay. As you see him in the background going into the pits, as Orlov does enter the pit lane. He's got a black flag, and we're going to go to the race lead actually, because it's side by side for Wright and Chavez. Aiden Carter has got an issue. That's probably damage he's struggling with after that contact. He's going dead slowly.
Daniel Chavez lost 1.5 seconds last lap to Thomas Wright. So Chavez had a little moment on the previous lap, as we see another replay of this incident. This is Thomas Wright going for the move again. Hard to say from that angle just how much overlap there was. Luckily, it was a very square on hit on the rear end bumper for Aiden Carter. They didn't lose their rear wing. Doesn't look like they've any suspension damage. They'll be able to continue on. Hopefully, the aero damage isn't too bad from the diffuser. But yeah, Thomas Wright trying to challenge for the lead, but after that attempted move on Aiden Carter, it may be fruitless if they get a post-race penalty.
Tis possible. We're going to stick with this lead battle as Thomas Wright gets a reasonably good one out to turn. After the final hairpin, he's going to go down the main straight. I'm not sure if he's going to have enough momentum to try and send it up the inside again. Chavez kind of goes half defensive, and on the brakes he goes. That's going to be a bold move into turn one if he can make that work. Goes too deep, and that's a Mustang back through. Dear Lord.
Further we get into this race, Thomas Wright is just a little more desperate, getting a little more audacious, and it's maybe not working out for them. They tried the move. They were lucky to pull the car up just in time for hitting the barrier, but Daniel Chavez saw it coming, made sure to get the cut back, and holds on to the lead. But Thomas Wright piling the pressure on, is really hoping Chavez makes a mistake that takes them out of the lead and maybe gives them enough of a gap that they still gain the position despite any potential post-race penalties. See, looking to the inside gate, not close enough to get the car alongside, but just trying to pressure, trying to put Daniel Chavez into a mistake. With 20 minutes of the race to go, Daniel Chavez has made very few errors this race. Can he hold on for another 20?
Absolutely. Aiden Carter in the background, you see him wobbling on acceleration. I'm just not sure if that's the rear end damage. Not enough to give him meatball flag, but enough to unsettle the car. As we saw him briefly pop into view out of the final hairpin, that rear end wiggling And oh, that's almost hit the wall. Thomas Wright.
I think there was a couple of sparks that came off the wall there. That was just really close with how the wall is angled. I'm sure Thomas will get away with that one, as they are certainly pushing a little bit wide there. Compromises their momentum, allows Thomas Wright to pull an extra car length as they head down to turn 7. But interestingly, even with the damage, it obviously isn't too bad for Aidan Carter. They were quicker than our 2 leaders last lap, but not quicker than Marley Watts. Difference was only 2/10 gained for the Porsche driver with 3 seconds to gain. They might need a little more than that if they want to take a podium place by the end of this race, though they, as we said, they may get promoted to a podium anyway if Thomas Wright does get a post-race penalty.
Absolutely, and yes, post-race stewarding in effect, we do encourage our drivers to report anything they feel needs reviewing, and yeah, I've just got to think that Thomas Wright, even though pushing for first place, may have an issue come the end of the race if a penalty is applied. We've got just a little under 20 minutes left, as we have just had an incident. Marley Watts having an issue going through the middle sector, P4. Is this just him slowing down for the hairpin? It must be. Apparently that constitutes as a crash on the live timing app, but
was maybe a little bit wider. I will say, I will give iRacing, every time we've seen that bit there, the car does seem to be a little bit wide, a little bit offline. But as we look to the front, Thomas Wright with the run out of turn 6 into turn 7 is trying to make a cutback work as Daniel Chavez defended the inside into turn 7, but Chavez holding on for now in the Mustang. Remember, they're trying to go back-to-back wins, scraping the wall, as you say, on the exit, defending the inside again as they come towards turn 9. They would have seen how aggressive Chavez was in trying to pass in car, and they're going to get aggressive now. Round the outside, turn 9 gives them the inside for turn 10, but the Mustang will hold the inside for the hairpin through the final corner, but with the momentum, bang off the wall for the Corvette. Thomas Wright will take the lead of this race. Whether they will get to hold on to it might be up to the steward's hands should Aidan Carter report that earlier incident. But either way, on track, Thomas Wright with the lead. It'll be interesting to see how aggressive the Mustang gets with trying to fight this one.
Round the outside, and the outside line prevails. Not often you can say that about a race circuit, but a scrape on the wall, however, will cause him a bit of strife, potentially causing some front-end damage on the car. For now, he's looking relatively stable as Chavez is dropping. Chavez had an issue of his own. Was that just because he's gone through the hairpin? Yes, it was.
Yeah,
that's disappointing.
Maybe a little scrape between these two as Thomas Wright tried to thread the needle between Chavez, who was turning as much as he could on that inside tight line, and the Corvette just trying to thread the needle while putting the foot down and taking the lead. Thomas Wright is now going to try and push as hard as they can, build up as much of a gap and hope that it's enough to negate any post-race penalty they get. Their first sort of time margin that they're aiming for is 10 seconds. I'd say they have a guaranteed 4th place at this stage. With how things are, as we see Philip Staples facing the wrong way out of turn 6. But as I was saying with Thomas Wright, he needs, with the gap to Peter Stather down in P5, he'll have P4, but can he keep it on the podium? That's the question. Loss of a run trying to put down the power for Philip Staples, an issue we've seen quite a lot of throughout this series, and Long Beach proving to be just as difficult when it comes to traction as Daytona and Road America.
Indeed. So, let's see what's happening. This field is now relatively spread out. We do see this sometimes, especially towards the end of the race. Everyone figures out what they need to do and just gets on with it. The closest battle we have is actually Marley Watts to Aidan Carter. They've got a lapped car in between them, I believe. That is of
Ivan Orlov.
Second position, Ivan Orlov.
Yeah, you can see Orlov carrying a bit of damage. The front bumper's not looking quite right. The rear wings at an odd angle and odd shape. Ivan really has been through the wars this race and has had multiple visits and meetings with Barrier.
That's not damage. That's Ferrari's next era upgrade.
That's an interesting one. Interesting one for sure. On the previous lap, Marley Watts gained 8 tenths on Aidan Carter. They've gained another 6 tenths on the last lap. They'll be hoping not to lose too much time behind Ivan Orlov here, as they do have a genuine chance here at P3, potentially P2, of course, pending any post-race penalties. But part of that does lie on if they're able to pass Ivan Orlov, who is, of course, lapped down, a few laps down, and will get out of the way out of turn 5, giving the Porsche free air to try and chase down a damaged Ian Carter. Here is a replay of Daniel Chavez as iRacing likes to show off how good its netcode is through the hairpin here at Long Beach. Chavez arcing the car in quite well to the hairpin, getting a good exit there. That's probably the best runs through the hairpin we've had when the game has given us a instant, let's say, on that update. Thomas right now, 6.5 second gap between them and Marley Watts. If Marley Watts does close in and start fighting with Ian Carter, that could help our current leader on the track. Marley Watts a little bit wide, does have a scrape with the outside wall out of the hairpin, as they haven't quite matched Ian Carter's pace this lap, having to be helped up by Ivan Orlov for a little bit. Ian Carter getting back on pace, a 1:20.0. That is 3 tenths quicker than Marley Watts that lap. Ian Carter having a little bit of a lag moment. Don't worry about that too much as they head into turn 1. Another scrape of the wall, and that was quite the scrape for Marley Watts. You can see they're pushing, maybe pushing a little too hard, as Aidan Carter getting into traffic again. I believe that might be Butolfson directly in front of them, or Nurinsky actually, as they're behind a McLaren. Nurinsky going for the dive to the inside. That is not for position.
It was.
So it was actually on Falsetta, promoting themselves up to 13th. Falsetta down to 14th. Let's just get a replay on how that happened. They move to the inside, dive it in on the brakes. And McLaren just about seen it coming. But yeah, very good move there from Rinsky, getting the braking right. Something you'd expect from someone who qualified in the top 3. As a reminder, if you're just joining us, got spun on the opening lap, which unfortunately dumped them to the back of the field. As Marley Watts getting held up there by Falsetta as they came into the hairpin. Flash of the lights coming out saying, hey, I want through. I'm trying to catch that Corvette in front, and not too pleased about that contact. This could be quite costly for Marley Watts. They'll get to the inside for turn 1 and they will get that move done, but there's still one car between the Corvette and Porsche driver, a fellow Corvette of Nurinsky, who will be pushing, thinking if they can maybe get any last places in the final 11 minutes of this race. Someone else who's thinking they can maybe get a last place in this race is Matt Cleaver. They are chasing down Peter Stather. They gained 7 tenths on the previous lap. Last lap, it was only, they lost 2 tenths. Peter Stather responding with a little bit of pace, but the gap only 6 tenths between the two of them. Matt Cleaver could put on a bit of pressure as these two fight, as Matt Cleaver tries to get one more American car into the top 5, which would make it 4 out of 5 for America in the top 5. Currently, it is only 3, but it is the top 3 for America.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a bit of a twitch there, trying to get the power back on Acura. Not making it work for him, but gets it gathered up, but is going to lose maybe a tenth or two to Porsche ahead. And that gap is slowly increasing ever so gently as it goes down into the back straight into the final sector.
Through the final sector now, it seems like Yuri Shore either has had an bit of connection things. They've dropped down to 15th place.
Here's your answer.
Coming towards T1, we can see Aidan Carter, Nurinsky behind, and pulls off. I wonder if they had a brake issue there into T1 as they use a skip road very effectively, I must say, to get the car turned around. Has lost a few positions. But yeah, interesting there. Their last lap, a 122.6, which is about 2.5 seconds slower than our leaders.
And it's him doing it again.
Is that again, or is that the same replay?
No, that's the same replay, apparently. I stand corrected. Never mind, say, as we jump forward, back with Cleaver still trying to close this gap, but is unable to do so as of right now. Nigel Stocks had an incident. I'm not sure if that's just him going through a hairpin, as the live timing is indeed telling me he's had a crash. He hasn't. He's still going. As this battle here for P5 is starting to get a little bit closer again. It was a little bit too close, as the Acura then has to back off once more.
Certainly getting close through the hairpin. Update on the battle for P3 on track at the moment. 3.5 tenths gained for the Marley Watts last lap. This battle for P5 that we're watching, only half a tenth gained for Cleaver on Peter Stather. And battle further back, John Earl trying to chase down Falsetta is getting very close now. He's going for the move actually to the inside of turn 8. We'll get the move done clean as you like. That's 13th place for John Earl, down to 14th for Falsetta for the second time, having made up a place from Uri Schroer's issues at T1. Like that, clean as you like, no issues there. Ivan Orlov in the background, a couple of laps down, but yeah, John Earl gained 1.3 seconds on the previous lap, so that move not being too difficult for them. Ben Brown through the fountain section down in 23rd, having had a rough race. It has not got any easier. Mistake into turn 4, and they will tow back to pits for the second time this race, unfortunately for them. This time though, from their own mistake. But yeah, the race already in ruins after a couple of prior incidents that were not their fault.
Absolutely not. So, just under 7 minutes to go. It's still all to play for in the top 5. Matt Cleaver hunting down Staffer for P5. Marley Watts also closed down Aidan Carter for P3. Lead gap between Wright and Chavez is now almost 3.5 seconds after the move was done. A few laps to go through the second sector. That final section of the corner is proving worthwhile for Thomas Wright to hold the outside line, and indeed did make it work for him, and has been able to continue, but has potential post-race steering looming over him, and I would imagine is trying to create a gap for that lead to negate any potential penalties. Further down the order, have Demchek and 7th, Hound 8th, Art Bloomquist 9th, Ben Royal 10th, should I say, Bottleson 11th, Noninsky 12th, L 13th, Falsetta 14th, Scorer 15th, Stock 16th, Staples 17th, Osbaldeston back in the pits in 18th when he joins the circuit, Rich 19th, Morgan 20th, Tui 21st, Orloff 22nd, and Brown returning themselves to the pits once more after having a spin in 23rd, Williams 24th, Backtev 25th, and sadly we do have a DNF of Jarrett Page, who is out of this race and currently classified 12 laps down to the lead.
Picked up too many instant points for Jarrett Page, unfortunately taking them out of this race. Noah Osbaldeston, if I remember correctly, was one of the first cars to come through the pits. I wonder if they couldn't quite make it to the end, though Elvin Blomqvist, who I believe was the first, barring those obviously had to pit for damage, is still continuing on. That did cost Noah 17th place to Philip Staples. So 1 place, but it is down in the lower regions of the pecking order. Marley Watts continues to close in on Aidan Carter. Gained 1/10 last lap, but something tells me they've gained a bit more. Aidan Carter coming out from behind a McLaren who pulls into slipstream, gives a flash of the light. I don't think that McLaren is too happy, but I think they need to remember they're still being lapped by a battle for the final podium position. Half a second gain this time for Marley Watts as John Earl is into the pits. We've seen them passing Falsetta not too long ago to get up into 13th place. they will drop down as they come into their pit box, and hopefully that'll only be a splash and dash all right down to 16th place.
Yeah.
May will have enough of a gap to Philip Staples, so 3 positions lost in that place. And you have to think back to Noah's pit stop. If they didn't have to pit, they might have been in front of John Earl. That's maybe a 2nd place lost for them from having to pit. Only 4 minutes to go in this race. We're 49 laps in already. We'll only see a few more as Marley Watts continues to chase down Aidan Carter, and will now getting close enough to start applying the pressure, bouncing over the curbs through turn 9. Maybe a little too much. The car seemed to get a little unsettled, to bring in a little bit of understeer into the Porsche. Look at that full steering lock round the hairpin, trying to get a good exit. 6 tenths back. Did they gain any more time on this lap? We wait for the times to come up on screen. No, they lost a couple of tenths instead. But it'll be interesting. Marley Watts, of course, with the fastest lap of the race so far. It'll be interesting to see if anyone else has just enough tyres under them as we head into the final laps to maybe just have a go at trying to pip that. Remember, fastest lap is worth 2 championship points. How worth it is it to take what's essentially a risk round this street circuit? If you do get it slightly wrong, you will find yourself into the wall, and it could cost you some positions if there are cars not too far behind you. Some people do have a little bit of a more of a gap than others. Interesting to see if anyone can get close. The only driver in the 119's last lap was our leader, Thomas Wright, as they continue to try and open that gap up just in case of a post-race penalty. They currently have 8.2 seconds on Marley Watts. They're really looking for at least 10 seconds, ideally.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll need to put out that gap a little bit more if he does want to avoid losing a podium, potentially, as that incident with the driver following ahead of Marley Watts, Aidan Carter, that contact they had about 20 odd minutes ago, has seen him drop down into 3rd and lose the leaders quite significantly, as they're now closing up the race with 2 laps to go.
Time is running out if Marley Watts wants to get this move done. Again, was slower than Aidan Carter that last lap, but was very marginal, as maybe a little mistake there from Marley Watts. As looking at the timing screen, you can see they're pushing on. You can see the pace that Victor Norinsky has now up to P12. Trying to chase down Botolfsson, who isn't too far in front, but unfortunately is kind of relying on the 2 cars in front of them to catch Botolfsson before they can have a go, and nearly runs into the back of Marley Watts. Maybe did give a slight nudge as Marley Watts nearly got into the outside wall, but with only a lap to go, I think it's going to be a little too late for Norinsky to catch and pass Botolfsson. But you have to say it has been a good recovery drive. Remember, facing the wrong way at lap 1 through no fault of their own, really. Down the back of the field, having qualified in P2 on the front row for this race, is a bit of a disappointment as they come to start their final lap. But yeah, they'll look through the field there as we're on this final lap, and having a look at our current leader on the track, but may not be due to an incident with Aidan Carter a little bit earlier. They took the lead from Daniel Chavez, who started on pole position. Looking a little down the order, who's been our biggest winners of this race? Peter Stather up 7 places from P12 to 5th place, has had a good race, but not as good as Matt Cleaver, up 9 places, 15th to P6, is trying to make it P5, but I think it's just going to miss out in the end. Elvin Blomqvist in their first iRacing race with us, up 7 places from 16th to 9th. That's a good showing, so well done to them on their first round. And looking, Nigel Stock up 6 places from 21st to 15th, hopefully taking advantage from some other drivers' incidents and mistakes. But as Thomas Wright Comes Ryan Turpin for the 52nd and final time for this race. They will be the first to see the checkered flag, but will they be classified as a race winner? We will have to wait till next week to find out. They pulled out a 5-second lead over Daniel Chavez, who was leading for most of the race from pole position, might re-inherit it. Aidan Carter, after that incident with Thomas Wright, will hold on to P3, with Marley Watts just within the 10-second margin to Thomas Wright to potentially take a podium position. Peter Stather back in P5, 34 seconds off of Marley Watts. But up, as I said, up some places still had a good race. Will hold on in front of Matt Cleaver, as we see here, who has been putting pressure on and actually went for a final lap spin. Is that here?
It was indeed, and that's going to not cost him position, but he was fighting for trying to get another position. He'll come to the line and tidy it up with P6, Demchuk, Holmes, Bloomquist and Royal. The only other car not to see the checker flag quite yet is Blacktev. He's going to come through the final chicane. Gets it nicely done. Ben Royal will come and see the checker flag very shortly in 10th position, actually, as it will be Blacktev to see the checker flag, and then Ben Royal to see the flag, and that is that.
Matt Cleaver just about holding on to P6 there by 1.5 seconds at the end with that spin. Lucky they didn't nudge their nose into the wall and have to find reverse. Here are the provisional results for our third round at Long Beach.
Thomas Wright taking provisional win, followed by Chavez, Carter, Watts, Staver, Cleaver, Dunlop, Holmes, Bloomquist, and then Royal, your top 10. Bottleston 11th, Nowinski 12th, Felicia 13th, Scorer 14th, Nigel Stock in 15th, John Howe 16th, Philip Staples 17th, Noah Osbaldeston, I hope I'm saying that right, in 18th, and then we go down to Rich Morgan, Fatowi Orlov, Baktev, Williams, Brown and Page was your final finishing positions for round 3 this evening. All provisional, not set in stone. Now we will touch base next week just to double check if that win for Thomas will stand. And that, folks, is round 3 all done and dusted. We can successfully now say we have had our halfway through this season for iRacing. 3 more rounds to go. That's some very fantastic tracks coming up. We are visiting Silverstone. We are also visiting oh goodness gracious me, Silverstone next, isn't it? Then it's we're going to the European tracks now, so it's all going to be British. We're saying bye bye to the Americas, and we're going to say hello to Silverstone. Scotty, help me up on the next 2. It is Brands Hatch.
No, as I said, through the American leg of the series done and dusted now, America taking a second top 3 finish in a row, and will likely, with, let me just count, 4, 5, 6 cars inside the top 10, including that all top 3 lockout. I would say they'll extend their 85-point lead that they had over Europe coming into this round as we head into the European leg, which starts with Silverstone, the home of British motorsports using the full Grand Prix circuit. After that, we'll be heading over to Germany around the Nürburgring GP circuit before heading to a track a little familiar with us on Le Mans Ultimate. We are, of course, heading to the Circuit de la Sarthe, home of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, for our final round as our 2 regions, America and Europe, fight it out, as well as the drivers, not just within the region championships, but also in the overall.
Cool. At least someone's on track with what tracks are coming up in the season. Because, I never check, and that's my own fault. Anyway, round 3 done and dusted. Next week, same time, same place. We'll be at Silverstone for the full Grand Prix circuit. Can't wait for that. That's going to be a good one. We've had 26 drivers this week. We're regularly hitting in the mid-20s. I cannot wait to see in excess of 20 GT3 cars going around Silverstone. What a sight that will be! And folks, if you want to come and watch it, do tune in. Same time, same place next week on oNiD Twitch. If you want to come and get involved, come and say hi to the admin team, see what events we're running. Not only are we having our 6 weekly season events, we are starting up some one-off events. Do come and join the Discord, discord.gg/oNiD Community Racing within on the screen there. Type that into any of your chosen web browsers. That will automatically take you to our Discord. And we do also have a Discord link in the Twitch page itself. Also come and join us on SimGrid, where all of our leagues are organised. Come and join the community on there. So as you're ready to sign up for next season's events in about 4 weeks' time. And until then, until next week, Scotty, we're going Silverstone. I can't wait.
Yeah, plenty of racing between now and then. Of course, we have our LMU series, well, 100 series on Sunday coming up, where we'll be racing around Monza for a very interesting strategic race. And strategy will continue into Monday with our GT3 MPG series, double fuel usage when we head to Sebring for the 4th round of that series. On Tuesday, we have our Assault Course installment, the British Stock Car Series. We'll be having our endurance round of the series, 80 minutes of 2005 Silverstone, running a slightly historic layout, very fast layout through the chicanes. That'll be interesting. Come have some nostalgia with us around the old Silverstone circuit. When on Wednesday we have our SimHound Academy on the Mon Ultimate. Lesser experienced, more rookie-orientated drivers learn the ropes, try and get up to speed. They'll be also heading to Sebring there with their hypercars and GT3 cars on the Mon Ultimate before we return with Silverstone for our Transatlantic Showdown. Until then, thank you everyone very much for joining us this evening. We hope you all enjoyed it, and hopefully we will see you next time. Till then, take care. Have a wonderful evening.
Take care. Friday tomorrow, not long to the weekend. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you all very, very soon.